The text message arrived at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and it changed everything. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up to when I still believed my wife loved me, when I thought Trent Shepard was just her obnoxious boss, and when I had no idea how satisfying revenge could taste. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Calvin Reed, and 3 months ago, I was a perfectly ordinary financial analyst living in a perfectly ordinary suburb of Chicago with my perfectly ordinary wife, Natalie. I'm 41, 5'9", with the kind of face you forget 5 minutes after meeting me. That's always been my superpower, being underestimated. People see a mild-mannered numbers guy and assume I'm harmless. They're wrong. It started with the dress. "Where are you going dressed like that?" I asked Natalie one Thursday evening as she strutted through our living room in a black cocktail dress that cost more than my monthly car payment. "Business dinner," she said, not looking up from her phone. "Big client presentation tomorrow." Since when do financial software presentations require evening wear that screams, "Take me now"? She finally looked at me, her green eyes flashing with irritation. "It's called networking, Calvin. Maybe if you understood that concept, you wouldn't still be analyzing other people's money instead of making your own." That stung, but I kept my voice level. "Right. And this networking involves your boss, I assume?" "Trent knows how to close deals. He's teaching me." She grabbed her purse, also new, also expensive. "Don't wait up." After she left, I sat in our kitchen drinking beer and thinking. Natalie had been different lately. New clothes, new attitude, new habit of treating me like furniture. She'd started working late 3 nights a week, always with Trent Shepard, her regional marketing director. Trent, who drove a red Maserati and wore suits that cost more than most people's rent. Trent, who was married to a woman named Lana, but acted like he was God's gift to every female in the office. I'd met him once at a company party. Tall, silver-haired, with the kind of confident smile that said he'd never been told no in his life. He'd shaken my hand and called me Chuck 3 times, despite my corrections. Classic power move, make the husband feel invisible. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Jules. "Beer tomorrow? You sound like you need it." Jules Martinez was an ex-cop turned private security consultant. We'd been friends since college, and he had a talent for reading people that made him invaluable in both his old job and his new one. If Jules thought I sounded stressed, I probably was. I texted back, "Definitely. Might need your professional opinion on something." The next morning, Natalie was gone before I woke up. She'd left a note. "Early meeting. Coffee's made. N. No, love you. No, have a good day." Just an initial, like I was her assistant. I got to work and tried to focus on quarterly reports, but my mind kept wandering. During lunch, I called Natalie's parents. Richard and Carol Brennan were the kind of people who valued appearances above all else. Perfect house, perfect lawn, perfect daughter, or so they thought. "Calvin." Carol's voice was bright and fake. "How lovely to hear from you. How's our Natalie?" "That's actually why I'm calling. She's been working so hard lately, all these business dinners. I thought maybe you and Richard would like to surprise her. You know, show up at one of these client meetings and see her in action." "Oh, what a wonderful idea. She's always been such a go-getter. Where does she usually meet these clients?" "Antonio's downtown. She'll be there tonight around 8 with her boss, Trent. Big presentation tomorrow, apparently." "We'll be there. Richard will be so proud." I hung up and smiled for the first time in weeks. If Natalie was really having innocent business dinners, her parents would see their professional daughter impressing clients. If she wasn't, well, that would be interesting too. That evening, I stayed home and waited. At 9:30, my phone rang. "Calvin?" Carol's voice was shaky. We need to talk. Can you come over?" "Is everything okay?" "Just come over, please." I found Richard and Carol sitting at their kitchen table looking like someone had faded. Carol's perfect makeup was smudged, and Richard's face was red with anger. "Tell me what you saw," I said, sitting down across from them. Richard slammed his hand on the table. "That bastard had his hands all over her. They were sitting in a booth in the back, and They were... He couldn't finish. Carol pulled out her phone with trembling fingers. "I took a picture before they saw us. I don't know what I thought." She showed me the screen. There was Natalie, sitting on Trent's lap, his hand on her thigh, her mouth on his neck. They looked like teenagers at prom, not colleagues discussing quarterly projections. "We confronted her," Carol whispered. "She said it wasn't what it looked like, but Calvin, the way she was dressed, the way she was touching him." "What did she say exactly?" "She said you two were having problems, that you didn't understand her ambitions, that Trent was helping her advance her career." Richard's voice was bitter. "She made it sound like it was your fault." I nodded, feeling strangely calm. The uncertainty was over. The wondering, the second-guessing myself, the feeling crazy, all of it was finished. Now I knew exactly where I stood. "I'm sorry, son," Richard said. "We never thought we raised her better than this." "It's not your fault," I said, pocketing Carol's phone. "Mind if I keep this picture?" "Of course. What are you going to do?" I stood up, and for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. "I'm going to handle this the smart way." I got home at midnight to find Natalie's car in the driveway. She was in the living room, still in that black dress, looking guilty as hell. "How was the client dinner?" I asked casually. "Good. Productive. We think we'll close the deal." "That's great. Your parents stopped by Antonio's to surprise you. Funny thing, they said you weren't there." Her face went white. We moved to a different restaurant, last-minute change." "Really?" "Because they have a picture that suggests otherwise." I showed her Carol's phone. Natalie stared at the image of herself draped over Trent like a cheap suit, and I watched her scramble for an explanation. "Calvin, it's not what it looks like. It looks like my wife is sleeping with her boss. Please, enlighten me on what it actually is." She tried tears first. "We were just talking, and he was comforting me because I told him how distant you've been." "Distant? I've been distant? You've been coming home at midnight 3 times a week, buying clothes we can't afford, and treating me like I'm invisible. But I'm the distant one?" The tears stopped. Now came anger. "You have no idea what it's like being married to someone with no ambition. Trent understands what I want out of life. He's successful, he's driven. He's married. His marriage is over. He's just waiting for the right time to leave Lana." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Jesus, Natalie, do you hear yourself? You're every cliché in the book. The bored housewife, the smooth-talking boss, the 'my marriage is over' line. I'd be embarrassed for you if I wasn't so disgusted." She stood up, hands on her hips. "At least he makes me feel alive. When's the last time you took me somewhere nice? When's the last time you bought me something beautiful? When's the last time you made me feel like a woman instead of a roommate? When's the last time you acted like a wife instead of a spoiled teenager?" That hit home. Her face twisted with rage. "I want a divorce." "Funny thing about that," I said, pulling a manila envelope from my briefcase. "I've been thinking the same thing." I handed her the divorce papers I'd had drawn up 3 weeks ago, when my suspicions first started. "I've made it easy for you. No alimony, 50-50 split of assets, and I'll even let you keep the car. All you have to do is sign." She stared at the papers. You already filed?" "Not yet. I wanted to give you a chance to explain. But since your explanation involves blaming me for your affair, I think we're done here." "Calvin, wait. We can work through this." "No, we can't. You made your choice. Now live with it." She tried a different approach. "What about our life together? 8 years of marriage, and you're just throwing it away?" "I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that when you decided Trent's lap was more comfortable than our marriage bed. I headed upstairs, leaving her standing there with the divorce papers. From our bedroom, I could hear her making phone calls, probably to Trent, crying about how mean her husband was being. The next morning, I called in sick and met Jules at a diner near his office. He took one look at me and ordered coffee for both of us. "You look like hell," he said. "What's going on?" I showed him the picture and explained everything. Jules studied the image with professional interest. "Well, that's pretty damning evidence. What's your next move?" "I need to know how deep this goes, how long it's been happening, whether other people know, what they're planning." "You want me to do some digging?" "If you don't mind. I need to know what I'm dealing with before this gets ugly." Jules nodded. "It's going to get ugly anyway. These things always do. The question is whether you want to be the one controlling how ugly it gets." "What do you mean?" "You're thinking like a victim right now. Poor Calvin. His wife cheated on him. His life is ruined. But you've got evidence. You've got her parents on your side, and you've got something Trent doesn't expect." "Which is?" "A brain. This guy's used to intimidating people with his money and his position. He's not used to dealing with someone who thinks 3 moves ahead." I spent the rest of the day planning. First, I called my bank and moved our joint savings into an account in my name only. Perfectly legal since I'd earned most of it anyway. Then I called our credit card companies and removed Natalie as an authorized user. Also legal since the cards were in my name. By the time Natalie got home that evening, she was locked out of our finances. She discovered this when her card was declined at her favorite boutique. "What did you do?" she screamed, bursting through the front door. "I protected our assets during divorce proceedings. Standard procedure." "You can't do this. I need money for clothes, for gas." "You have a job. Use your paycheck." "My paycheck barely covers my car payment." "Then maybe you should have thought about that before you started your extracurricular activities." She tried to argue, but I'd done my homework. Everything I'd done was legal and within my rights. She could get a lawyer, but that would take time and money she didn't have. That night, she slept in the guest room. I heard her crying through the walls, but I felt nothing. The woman I'd married was gone, replaced by this stranger who blamed everyone but herself for her choices. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Lana Shepard." I met Lana Shepard at a coffee shop in Lincoln Park, far from both our neighborhoods. She was nothing like I'd expected. Where Trent was flashy and loud, Lana was elegant and quiet. Mid-30s, auburn hair, wearing a simple black coat that probably cost more than my monthly salary, but didn't scream about it. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, sliding into the booth across from me. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "How did you get my number?" "I have my ways. The question is, how long have you known about our spouse's affair?" "About a week. You?" 3 months. Her smile was bitter. "I hired a private investigator when Trent started working late and coming home smelling like Chanel No. 5. Your wife has expensive taste in perfume." 3 months? Jesus. I'm sorry." "Don't be. I'm not." She pulled out a tablet and showed me a folder full of photos. "I've been documenting everything. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, text messages. I even have video of them leaving the Marriott downtown." The photos were damning. Trent and Natalie holding hands, kissing in his car, entering hotel rooms together. Seeing it laid out like evidence in a criminal case made my stomach turn. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I want to destroy them both, and I think you might too." I studied her face. There was no sadness there, no hurt, just cold, calculating anger. "What do you have in mind?" "Trent thinks he's untouchable. Regional director, company golden boy, never faced consequences for anything in his life. But his company has strict policies about supervisor relationships. And they especially frown on affairs that create hostile work environments. You want to get him fired. I want to get him ruined. There's a difference." She leaned forward. "Your wife works in his department, right?" That makes this a clear violation of company policy. If the right evidence reached the right people, they'd both lose their jobs. At minimum, possibly face lawsuits if other employees claim the affair created an unfair advantage for Natalie. I thought about it. Natalie had gotten 2 promotions in the past 6 months, both recommended by Trent. If that came to light during an investigation, what do you need from me? Access. Your wife probably has text messages, emails, maybe even photos on her phone. Things that would be inadmissible in court if I obtained them, but perfectly legal if her husband found them during divorce proceedings. That evening, I waited until Natalie was in the shower, then went through her phone. What I found made me sick. Hundreds of text messages between her and Trent, explicit photos, detailed plans for their business trips to hotels. But the worst part was how they talked about me. Calvin's such a loser. No ambition, no passion. I don't know how I stood it this long. Natalie, don't worry, baby. Once you're free, we can be together openly. I'll take care of you. Trent, I can't wait to see his face when I tell him I'm leaving him for a real man. Natalie, I screenshot everything and sent it to myself, then put her phone back exactly where I'd found it. The next morning, I forwarded the evidence to Lana, who promised to handle the rest. Then I called Jules. How's your investigation going? Interesting developments. Turns out your wife's been bragging about her affair to her work friends. Megan Walsh and Shira Kim know everything. They think it's romantic. Romantic? Yeah, they've been covering for her, lying to you about her whereabouts, helping her shop for lingerie, the whole 9 yards. They think she's living some kind of fantasy. Can you get them on record? Already did. Recorded them at lunch yesterday talking about how stupid you are for not noticing. Want to hear it? He played the recording on his phone. Megan's voice was clear. I can't believe Calvin hasn't figured it out yet. Natalie's practically glowing every time she comes back from one of her business dinners. Shira laughed. She showed me the lingerie Trent bought her. $300 for a bra. Calvin probably shops at Walmart. She said she's going to leave him as soon as Trent divorces his wife. They're planning to move in together. Good for her. Life's too short to waste on boring men. I felt my hands clench into fists. These women had smiled to my face at office parties, had eaten dinner at my house, had pretended to be friends while laughing at me behind my back. There's more, Jules said. Trent's been promising to leave his wife for over a year. He's told at least 3 other women the same thing. Your wife isn't special, she's just the latest conquest. Does she know that? If she does, she's in serious denial. According to her friends, she thinks she's the love of his life. That afternoon, Lana called with an update. I submitted the evidence to HR this morning. They're launching a formal investigation. Trent's been suspended pending the outcome. What about Natalie? She's being questioned tomorrow. They'll probably suspend her too once they see the text messages. I felt a grim satisfaction. The wheels were in motion now, and there was no stopping them. When Natalie came home that evening, she was furious. Someone reported Trent to HR. They're investigating our relationship. Really, that's terrible. Who would do such a thing? It had to be someone with access to personal information, someone who knew about our friendship. Friendship? Is that what we're calling it now? She ignored that. Calvin, I need you to back me up. If they ask, you have to say you knew about my work dinners, that you encouraged them. Why would I do that? Because if they fire me, I won't be able to pay for a lawyer in our divorce. You'll end up paying alimony. I pretended to consider this. You're right, I wouldn't want that. Tell you what, I'll support your story if you answer one question honestly. What? How long has this been going on? She hesitated. It's not what you think. How long, Natalie? 6 months, she whispered. 6 months. Half a year of lies, of coming home and kissing me with the same mouth she'd used on him. Half a year of letting me believe we had a marriage worth saving. Okay, I said. I'll help you. She looked relieved. Thank you. I know this is hard, but just one more thing. I'll need you to sign a statement saying the affair started after you filed for divorce. You know, to protect you from the company's morality clause. We haven't filed for divorce yet. We will tomorrow. I'll have my lawyer backdate it to last month. That way you can claim the affair happened after our marriage was already over. She nodded eagerly. Yes, that's perfect. That's exactly what we'll do. What she didn't know was that there was no morality clause, no way to backdate divorce filings, and no intention on my part to help her. I just wanted her confession on record. After she signed the statement admitting to a 6-month affair, I filed it with my divorce lawyer along with all the other evidence. By morning, Natalie would be facing not just unemployment, but a divorce proceeding where she'd already confessed to adultery. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting people destroy themselves. The next morning, Natalie left for her HR meeting wearing her most conservative outfit and a desperate expression. I waited until she was gone, then called in sick again and met Lana for breakfast. How do you think it's going? I asked. Badly for them. I submitted over 200 pages of evidence, text messages, photos, hotel receipts, witness statements. HR has no choice but to act. Witness statements? Several employees have come forward about preferential treatment Natalie received, promotions she wasn't qualified for, assignments that should have gone to more senior staff, overtime pay for business dinners that were clearly personal. Lana smiled coldly. Turns out people notice when the boss's girlfriend gets special treatment. My phone buzzed with a text from Natalie. They suspended me. Coming home. She's been suspended, I told Lana. Good. Phase 1 complete. Ready for Phase 2? Which is? Public humiliation. There's a company networking event tomorrow night. Trent will be there. Suspension doesn't apply to voluntary social functions. So will most of their co-workers. And I think it's time everyone knew exactly what kind of man Trent Shepard really is. She outlined her plan. It was elegant, brutal, and completely legal. More importantly, it would destroy both Trent's reputation and any chance he had of finding another job in their industry. Are you sure you want to do this? I asked. Once we cross this line, there's no going back. Calvin, my husband has been cheating on me for years. Your wife threw away 8 years of marriage for a man who sees her as a temporary diversion. They made their choices. Now we make ours. That afternoon, Natalie came home in tears. They have everything, Calvin. Text messages, photos, even recordings of phone calls. Someone's been watching us for months. That's awful. Who would do that? It has to be Lana. She always hated me. Did she have reason to? Natalie's face flushed. This isn't my fault. Trent said his marriage was over. He said he was going to leave her anyway. But he didn't, did he? He was waiting for the right time. Natalie, stop. Just stop lying. To me, to yourself, to everyone. You had an affair with a married man. You got caught. Now you're facing the consequences. She collapsed on the couch, sobbing. For a moment,
You cheated on me. You betrayed me. You destroyed our family.
Yes, I cheated. And you're the one to blame. You were never there for me. We're divorcing.
You get nothing. The house is mine. The money is mine. You'll live on the street. What?
Want to know who I cheated with? Your boss. He's a real man.
You're finished. I'll make sure you get nothing. You hear me? Nothing!
I don't need your money. I'm leaving you for him. He's twice the man you are. And you know what else?
I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the text messages, the lies, the 6 months of deception. What am I going to do? She whispered. If they fire me, I'll never get another job in marketing. And with the divorce, you should have thought about that before you decided to upgrade husbands. Don't be cruel. Cruel? You want to see cruel? Let me read you some of your text messages. I pulled out my phone and started reading her own words back to her. The things she'd said about me, about our marriage, about her plans to leave me for Trent. She went pale. How did you get those? You left your phone unlocked. Amazing what people will put in writing when they think no one's watching. Calvin, please. I know I made mistakes, but... Mistakes? A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. A mistake is bouncing a check. Having a 6-month affair with your married boss isn't a mistake. It's a choice, a series of choices, hundreds of them. She tried to argue, but I was done listening. I had preparations to make for tomorrow night's networking event. The next evening, Lana and I arrived at the Hilton Ballroom separately. The event was in full swing, 100 marketing professionals mingling, drinking, and pretending to enjoy each other's company. I spotted Trent immediately. He was holding court near the bar, telling some story that had his audience laughing. There he is, Lana said, appearing at my elbow. The king of the castle. Notice how everyone's still treating him like nothing happened? The suspension isn't public knowledge? Not yet, but it will be. Lana had arranged for a friend in the local business media to attend the event. Sarah Chen was a reporter for the Chicago Business Journal, and she was very interested in stories about corporate misconduct. At exactly 9 o'clock, Lana approached Trent's group. I followed at a distance, close enough to hear but far enough away to avoid immediate recognition. "Hello, darling," Lana said sweetly. "Enjoying your party?" Trent's face went white. "Lana, what are you doing here?" "Supporting my husband's career, or what's left of it." She raised her voice slightly, drawing attention from nearby groups. "Tell me, have you shared the good news with your colleagues?" "What news?" "About your suspension for harassment, about the investigation into your affair with your subordinate, about the dozen company policies you violated while you were thinking with your dick instead of your brain." The conversations around us stopped. People turned to stare. Trent tried to grab Lana's arm, but she stepped back. "Don't touch me. You've done enough damage." She looked around at the shocked faces. "In case anyone's wondering, my husband has been having an affair with Natalie Reed from his department. 6 months of hotel rooms, business dinners, and company resources used for personal entertainment." "Lana, stop. Stop. Like you stopped when I asked you to go to marriage counseling? Like you stopped when I begged you to end the affair? Like you stopped when I showed you the evidence and gave you one last chance to come clean?" Sarah Chen materialized with a voice recorder. "Mrs. Shepard, I'm Sarah Chen from the Chicago Business Journal. Would you care to comment on these allegations?" "They're not allegations, they're facts." Lana pulled out her tablet and began showing photos to anyone who would look. "Here's Trent entering the Marriott with Ms. Reed. Here's the company credit card receipt for their dinner at Le Bernardin. Paid for with corporate funds, of course. Here's the text message where he promises to promote her in exchange for continued favors." The crowd was growing. People were taking pictures, recording videos, posting on social media. Trent's career was being destroyed in real time, broadcast to the entire Chicago marketing community. "You're insane," Trent shouted. "This is harassment." "No, dear, this is consequences." Lana's voice was perfectly calm. "Harassment is what you did to your female employees for the past 5 years. This is just information sharing." Trent tried to leave, but the crowd had formed a circle around us. Everyone wanted to see the show, to witness the fall of someone they'd either feared or resented. "Where's Natalie tonight?" someone called out. "Shouldn't she be here supporting her boyfriend?" "Oh, she's at home," I said, stepping forward. "Probably wondering why her married lover hasn't left his wife yet." Trent spun around to face me. "You snake, you orchestrated this." "I didn't orchestrate anything. I just stopped covering for my wife's lies." I looked around at the crowd. "See, some of you probably wondered why Natalie got promoted so quickly, why she was always the one chosen for special projects, why she seemed to have such influence with management." "Calvin, don't," Trent started. "Now you know. She was using connections to climb her way to the top. Literally. I pulled out my phone and showed the crowd some of the tamer text messages. Here she is bragging about the lingerie her boss bought her. Here she is laughing about how stupid her husband is. Here she is planning her new life with a man who's been promising to leave his wife for over a year. The crowd was eating it up. Phones were recording, people were laughing, and Trent's face was getting redder by the minute. "You're both going to pay for this," he snarled. "Pay for what? Telling the truth?" Lana smiled. "Trent, you're suspended from your job, under investigation for harassment, and about to be divorced by a wife who has evidence of every affair you've had for the past 5 years. What exactly are you going to do to us?" Security finally arrived to break up the commotion, but it was too late. The damage was done. Videos of the confrontation were already circulating on social media, and Sarah Chen had enough material for a front-page story. As the crowd dispersed, Trent made one last desperate play. "This isn't over," he told me. "You have no idea who you're messing with." "Actually, I do. I'm messing with a middle-aged man who threw away his career for a piece of ass. Good luck with your job search, Trent. I'm sure your new reputation will really help with the interviews." The Chicago Business Journal story ran 3 days later with the headline, "Marketing Executive Suspended After Affair Scandal." It included quotes from the networking event, photos that Lana had provided, and interviews with former employees who came forward with their own stories about Trent's behavior. The article destroyed what was left of Trent's career. By the end of the week, his company had fired him for cause, which meant no severance package and no positive references. Other companies in the industry began distancing themselves from anyone associated with the scandal. Natalie was also fired, but she took it worse than Trent did. She'd built her entire identity around being successful, ambitious, destined for greatness. Now she was unemployed, facing divorce, and blacklisted in her industry. "This is all your fault," she screamed at me when she got the termination call. "You and that psychotic snake destroyed my life. You destroyed your own life. We just made sure everyone knew about it. Trent was going to leave her. We were going to be together. Natalie, Trent was never going to leave Lana. You were just his latest conquest. Did you really think you were special?" The truth finally seemed to hit her. She'd thrown away her marriage, her career, and her reputation for a man who saw her as disposable. The realization broke something inside her. Over the next few weeks, she tried everything to salvage the situation. She begged me to take her back, promised to end the affair, offered to go to counseling. When that didn't work, she tried threats, claiming she'd take half our assets in the divorce. "With what lawyer?" I asked. "You're unemployed, remember? And I have evidence of a 6-month affair, which means adultery. In Illinois, that affects asset division." She tried to get support from her friends, but Megan and Shira had distanced themselves once the scandal became public. Nobody wanted to be associated with the woman who'd slept her way to the top and gotten caught. Her parents were her last hope, but Richard and Carol were too embarrassed to help. They'd seen the photos, read the articles, heard the gossip from their neighbors. Their perfect daughter had become the subject of suburban scandal. "We're disappointed in you, Natalie," Carol told her during a tense family dinner. "We raised you better than this." "You don't understand." "We understand perfectly," Richard interrupted. "You cheated on your husband with a married man, destroyed your career, and humiliated our family. What's to understand?" Meanwhile, Trent was having his own problems. Lana's divorce lawyer was ruthless, and with all the evidence of his affairs, she was entitled to a significant portion of his assets. His house went up for sale, his cars were repossessed, and his country club membership was revoked. But Trent wasn't the type to accept defeat gracefully. 3 weeks after the networking event disaster, he decided to take matters into his own hands. I was working late in my home office when I heard glass breaking downstairs. I grabbed a baseball bat and crept toward the stairs, calling 911 on my phone. "Calvin!" Trent's voice echoed through the house. "We need to talk!" I found him in my living room, drunk and furious, holding a crowbar he'd used to break the sliding door. He was a mess, unshaven, wearing clothes that looked like he'd slept in them, eyes wild with desperation. "You destroyed my life," he slurred. "You destroyed your own life. I just documented it." "Shut up!" He swung the crowbar, missing me by inches. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Mild-mannered Calvin, nobody special, but you outsmarted the big shot. It wasn't hard. You made it easy." That enraged him further. He charged at me, but he was drunk and clumsy. I sidestepped and let him crash into the coffee table. "Where's Natalie?" he demanded, struggling to get up. "Why do you care? I thought you were done with her." "She was supposed to wait for me. We had plans." "Plans? Trent, you're broke, unemployed, and about to be divorced. What plans could you possibly have?" The truth was, Natalie had tried to reconnect with Trent after they were both fired, but he'd rejected her. Without his job and status, she was just another inconvenience. He'd told her to leave him alone and focus on her own problems. But Trent's version of reality was different. In his mind, I had somehow poisoned Natalie against him, turned her back into the dutiful wife. He couldn't accept that she'd simply chosen self-preservation over loyalty to a man who couldn't help her anymore. "You turned her against me," he said, getting back to his feet. "I didn't have to. You did that yourself when you became a liability instead of an asset." He swung the crowbar again, this time connecting with my shoulder. Pain shot down my arm, but I managed to keep hold of the baseball bat. "Feel better?" I asked. "Does hitting me change the fact that you're a loser who threw away everything for a piece of ass?" He roared and charged again. This time, I was ready. I swung the bat and caught him in the ribs, dropping him to the floor. He curled up, gasping for breath. "Here's the thing about consequences, Trent," I said, standing over him. "They don't care about your excuses. They don't care that you thought you deserved better. They don't care that you were just following your dick instead of your brain. They just are." Sirens wailed in the distance. The police were coming. "You're going to jail for breaking and entering," I continued. "That'll go great with your harassment investigation and your divorce proceedings. Really complete the picture of your new life." Trent tried to get up, but I put my foot on his chest and pushed him back down. "Stay down. We're done here." The police arrived to find Trent on my floor, drunk and belligerent, with a crowbar and a house full of broken glass as evidence. They arrested him for breaking and entering, assault with a weapon, and public intoxication. As they led him away in handcuffs, he screamed threats at me. "This isn't over. I'll destroy you." "You already tried that," I called back. "How'd it work out?" The trial was a formality. Trent's lawyer tried to claim temporary insanity brought on by stress, but the evidence was overwhelming. Security cameras had captured him breaking into my house, witnesses testified about his threats at the networking event, and his own drunken confession to the police sealed his fate. He was sentenced to 18 months in county jail, followed by 3 years of probation. His mugshot appeared in the same business journal that had covered the original scandal, completing his transformation from successful executive to cautionary tale. Natalie attended the trial, sitting in the back row and crying quietly. She'd lost weight, and her expensive clothes couldn't hide the defeat in her eyes. After the sentencing, she approached me in the courthouse hallway. "Are you happy now?" she asked. "I'm satisfied. There's a difference. I've lost everything. My job, my reputation, my friends, even my parents barely speak to me. You made your choices. These are the consequences." "I loved him, Calvin. I really thought we had a future together." "You loved the idea of him, the status, the money, the excitement. But you never knew the real Trent Shepard, and he never cared about the real you." She started to argue, then stopped. Maybe she was finally seeing the truth. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you figure out how to rebuild your life. Get a job, find a new place to live, learn to take responsibility for your actions." Could we ever? "No, we're done, Natalie. We've been done since the night your parents caught you with him. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks later. Natalie got her car and half the furniture. I kept the house, the savings, and my self-respect. Lana's divorce was more complicated, but she had better lawyers and more evidence. She ended up with the house, most of Trent's assets, and a substantial alimony payment that would continue until he found steady employment, which, given his reputation, might be never. "Thank you," she said, when we met for coffee after both divorces were final. "I couldn't have done this without you. We made a good team. What's next for you?" "I'm thinking about starting my own consulting firm. Turns out I'm good at investigating financial irregularities." She laughed. "I bet you are. And Natalie? Last I heard, she was working at a call center in Schaumburg. Different name, different life. She'll be okay eventually. Do you ever feel bad about what we did?" I thought about it. No. They made their choices with full knowledge of the consequences. We just made sure those consequences actually happened. 6 months later, I ran into Megan Walsh at a grocery store. She'd been one of Natalie's friends, one of the women who'd laughed about how stupid I was for not noticing the affair. "Calvin," she said with fake enthusiasm. "How are you doing?" "Great. Business is booming. I heard about your consulting firm. That's wonderful." She paused awkwardly. "Listen. About everything that happened with Natalie. What about it? I just want you to know that we never meant any harm. We were just being supportive friends. By helping her lie to me? By covering up her affair? By mocking me behind my back?" Her face reddened. "We didn't think... we never imagined it would end like this." "How did you think it would end, Megan? With me finding out eventually and just accepting it? With Natalie riding off into the sunset with her married boss? What exactly was the happy ending in your version?" She didn't have an answer for that. "Here's some free advice," I continued. "Next time one of your friends is having an affair, maybe consider the spouse who's being betrayed. Maybe think about whether being supportive actually means helping someone destroy their family." I left her standing there, probably for the first time in her life, considering the consequences of her actions. That evening, I was at home reading when my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Natalie standing on my porch, looking nervous and desperate. "What do you want?" I asked. "Can I come in? Just for a minute?" Against my better judgment, I let her in. She looked around the living room, our former living room, with sad eyes. "The place looks good," she said. "It's peaceful. Calvin, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Okay. Did you ever love me? Really love me?" I thought about the question. "Yes. I loved the woman I married, but that woman disappeared somewhere along the way, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. I'm still me." "No, you're not. The woman I married wouldn't have had an affair. She wouldn't have lied to me for 6 months. She wouldn't have blamed me for her choices." "People change." "Yes, they do. And you changed into someone I couldn't live with." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I came to tell you I'm leaving Chicago, starting over somewhere else." "That's probably smart." "I also came to apologize. Really apologize, not just for getting caught, but for what I did to you. To us." "Okay. And I wanted to ask, do you forgive me?" I looked at her, this woman who'd shared my bed for 8 years, who'd promised to love me in sickness and health, who'd thrown it all away for a man who saw her as disposable. "I don't forgive you, Natalie, but I don't hate you either. I just don't feel anything for you anymore." She flinched like I'd slapped her. Maybe indifference was worse than anger. "That's fair," she whispered. "Take care of yourself. Learn from this. Don't make the same mistakes again." She nodded and walked toward the door. At the threshold, she turned back one last time. "For what it's worth, I never meant for it to happen. The affair, it just happened." "No, it didn't. You chose it. Every text message, every hotel room, every lie you told me, those were all choices. Own them." After she left, I poured myself a drink and sat in my quiet living room. Outside, snow was beginning to fall, covering the suburban street in pristine white. It looked peaceful, clean, like a fresh start. My phone buzzed with a text from Jules. "Dinner tomorrow? I want to hear about your new client." I smiled and texted back, "Absolutely. I'll tell you all about it." The client was interesting, a woman whose business partner had been embezzling funds and covering it up with creative accounting. It was the kind of case I specialized in now, using my financial background and investigative skills to uncover the truth. I'd found my calling, it turned out, helping people who'd been betrayed, who'd been lied to, who needed someone to dig up the facts and present them clearly. It was satisfying work, and it paid well. As I sat there in the quiet house, I realized I was happy. Not the desperate, clinging happiness of someone trying to convince themselves their life was perfect, but the calm contentment of someone who knew exactly who they were and what they wanted. Natalie had been wrong about one thing. I did have ambition. I just hadn't found the right outlet for it until she forced me to discover what I was really capable of. The snow continued to fall outside, and I raised my glass in a silent toast. To new beginnings, to consequences, and to the hard way out being sometimes the only way forward.